Hong Kong's Legislative Council, or LegCo, held 49 meetings last year, and unlike in the past, there were no unruly scenes. It led a LegCo member to proclaim that the filibuster, abuse of rules and legal procedures are no longer in existence. What led to this change? Has Hong Kong deviated from its journey towards greater democracy? In our special series celebrating the 25th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to Chinese rule, I talked with Junius Ho, who is also former president of the Law Society of Hong Kong and current chair of the Tuen Mun Rural Committee. He was stabbed during the turmoil in 2019, but has since recovered. Junius, welcome to The Point. How do you look at this critical juncture right as Hong Kong was going to celebrate 25th anniversary of its return to Chinese rule, that the situation is brought under control, stability is back in the city? How do you feel at this moment? What is the atmosphere in the society right now?
Well, I believe majority of the population in Hong Kong is looking forward to a new change. For the last 5 years, it had nothing to do with the Carrie Lam's governance as a whole. Or well, she's not really the only one to be blamed about the downside of Hong Kong that we had gone through. In fact, we all accept that Hong Kong is a metropolitan city. It has been subject to a lot of foreign influence. So I think our existing chief executive had already demonstrated her ability to her utmost in order to overcome all the problems. However, it's not just a simple one. So that's why we need the central government's input, and eventually it came in at the right time. And secondly, apart from the 2019 riotous events, we also had gone through a terrible worldwide pandemic. Now, that matter did not just happen in Hong Kong; it just happened affects the whole world. So all these sort of the bad feelings were really troubling the population in Hong Kong at large. Somehow, we eye on front. We now look forward to seeing the new term of the government to bring us the new hope. Especially, we're also expecting the Central People's Government's leader coming to Hong Kong and to grace us good luck, good fortune, and also good big present. You know that the border has been subject to very tight restrictions for the last 2.5 years. People in Hong Kong would really expect, really hoping very, very hard for opening up of the border so that, you know, people can commute across the border much more easier, and seeing the relatives and friends and resuming the normal life as soon as possible. Now, in terms of the general public, of course, the security, the law and order is also back in force. The so-called large scale general damage, criminal damage, or assaulting peoples, which would no longer happen. But bearing in mind the fact that we should not just be overlooking anything or any mishap that may happen. And in fact, as some say, some people, some views as if that despite the apparent tranquility, things happening behind and behind the scene is pretty much vigorous, and one should not just overlook it. I tend to err on the safety side, and let's not be complacent about the situation. Let's not be careless about the situation. The apparent situation seems restoring back to normal. Let's not forget that some people, you know, hideous character hiding in somewhere in the dark corner may just try to seize any opportunity to cause turmoil and upset the situation in Hong Kong. That's something that we need to bear in mind.
We've all seen, the whole world saw in live streaming how the Legislative Council was being attacked, right, was being ransacked, and horrible things were taking place in that chamber. So how has things been going these days? I understand, for instance, filibustering or other kind of malicious conducts are much, much less, even nowhere to be seen. Is that the case? And what is the impact of that change to the livelihood of Hong Kong people, to the governance of the region?
The filibuster, all that sort of thing, abuse of the rules and procedures are no longer in existence. I think, I can say it for sure that all these are just in the history museum. It's no longer happening in Hong Kong because we have already refined the rules and procedure whereby even if there would be any, big malicious opposition parties that happen to be in LegCo, they could not just have any chance to abuse the procedures because this is quite watertight now. As such, the efficiency of the lawmaking is very, very much enhanced as opposed to what we had gone through. The general public had witnessed what the previous term did is no longer the phenomenon in the LegCo.
How is it possible for people with different voices, different opinions, for their voices to be heard and their suggestions be incorporated in the legislative and governance process?
Well, I think in general and also in long term, I still believe that democracy's development, democratic development, would still continue to strive for for flourishing future. And there's no doubt about it. In fact, the Central People's Government has already been reassured to the public in Hong Kong that the situation under the Basic Law will continue to have one country, two systems. We continue to lead on our capitalistic lifestyle. Now, in fact, on the other hand, the freedom of speech and freedom of movement, all these constitutionally protected rights are continued to be enjoyed by the people in Hong Kong. I don't think that, because of the we need to adjust the situation from the chaos back into normal. Within this short period of time, of course, there would be some stranger measures to be introduced and adopted, and that is well understandable.
Now we're going to the second half, the next 25 years. How do you look at the prospect there, and what do you think is in store for Hong Kong now that you have the national security law, now that you have the patriots governing Hong Kong, you have a new legislative, you have a new chief executive with his newly announced cabinet, and the central government fully backing and fully trusting this region. What do you think is going to happen next for Hong Kong?
I believe Hong Kong should really grab the opportunity well, especially in the context of the 14th five-year plan that the motherland is now undergoing, and under which Hong Kong has been designated to set up herself to become the major center for several chapters, one of which is about the advanced technology and also innovation. I fully support this one. And in fact, Hong Kong should not just dwell on too much time in over politics. However, the politics in Hong Kong, as I said, we have, I would not say total waste. In fact, Hong Kong is a perfect laboratory, is a testing ground for new concept here. As soon as it's proven to be right, and then those concepts may be borrowed by the mainland as a very good experience to continue to try on the mainland. Now, having said all that, I trust that the next 25 years will be crucial. In fact, we should not just dwell on too much in politics. I think that is already good enough. We have accumulated sufficient data and experience, and that can be well analyzed and imitated. For the good thing, we can absorb. For the bad thing, those could be eliminated. Now, apart from that one, I believe for the next 25 years, we have to eye on not only the innovation, technological development, we also try to think of how to assimilate Hong Kong as an SAR with the Xinjiang as a special economic zone, SEZ. So these two major cities, if somehow could be amalgamated to make a bigger city, so-called the metropolitan Hong Kong, that would add value not only to China as a whole, but also add value to the regional development in whole Asia. I also have a dream about the role that Hong Kong could play out in the near future. Now we know that United Nations has been founded and set up its headquarters in New York for many years already. Would it be just the right time for United Nations to set up a regional headquarters? If so, where? Of course, Asia is a perfect location, perfect region, because this century is belonged to Asia. I think among all the contenders for building a regional headquarters, Hong Kong should stand a better chance. I look forward to one day Hong Kong will also be able to provide a place for United Nations to set up its regional headquarters here.
Thank you so much, Junius Ho, for joining us from Hong Kong.
You're welcome.